Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Rupa Varmadikam Sarvam Vihaya Paramartharita Paripurna Chidananda Swarupena Avasishtate. Who wants to read the translation?
All form, color, etc. are given up by one who knows the absolute reality. As the whole, limitless consciousness, he abides as its own nature.
So the subsequent verses are actually talking about the person who, having used Shastra as a pramana and having prepared oneself, has got the knowledge. So what is this person? So that is what we show. Okay. So now, as a result of nididhyasana, as a result of contemplation, listening to Shastra, removing doubts and contemplation, what is now? What is the result? So here he says that the person has got given up the form and color. And this is what all the attributes of the body and mind are given up by the person. Given up by the person again has to be understood properly, because there is a kind of a superficial vision of Vedanta which kind of is a very sometimes not very healthy. I am not the body. I am not the mind. This is what we call a superficial vision of Vedanta, and then what happens is that then they start floating with their own idea of awareness, which is removed from everything. So this is not Vedanta. This is called misconception. This is Devanta. Right? So what is the relationship between body and Atma? Satya. What does it mean? The awareness pervades whole of the body. So I am not the body is not what? So awareness pervades my entire body, but it is free from being a body. Please don't create any physical distance. In the vision of limitlessness, there cannot be any physical distance. Physical distance means that now you're separated in space from a given thing, you become an object. Right? Body, I'm not the body, then body is one thing, I'm the other thing. So I'm separated, and then that will limit me. Right? So this is why, this is what we say, there is no different limitation. Right? It's not like Atma is placed here and awareness is placed somewhere else. The awareness pervading the whole body is free from being a body. And body cannot exist without the presence of awareness. So this is what we say, please don't create a physical distance.
You said precedes, right?
Sorry?
Awareness precedes.
Awareness pervades. Right? Now, the same thing with reference to mind. Every thought of my mind is pervaded by awareness, but awareness is free from being any thought. This is much more sophisticated than I am not the mind, because in the mind there is awareness pervading the mind, it is free from being the mind. So this is what one understands. And even though this is the case, and awareness is free from different conditions of the body and mind, still the body and mind is needed. Body and mind is needed before the knowledge takes place. So that means you have to have a form where inquiry into the nature of Atma can take place. So you not only have to have a body, but you need to have an appropriate body where this inquiry can take place. Suppose you are born as an insect. So there is a form, and the truth of that form is that it is a form of Ishvara, and the truth of that is also awareness, but the insect is not able to solve this problem. Why the insect is not able to solve this problem? Because the insect doesn't have the mind which is capable of inquiring into the nature of reality and solving this problem. Right? So that means even though ultimately you want to understand that you are free from the conditions of the body and mind, the body and mind itself is actually an instrument through which you figure out the time awareness. So therefore, while you have it, it is a place where inquiry can take place. So it's extremely useful, without which you can't solve this problem. And because it is useful, you have to take care of it. You can't just say, oh, Vedanta says I'm not body and mind, so let me be kind of totally indifferent to the conditions of the body and mind. In fact, you need a healthy body. Try to sit in the class when your back is aching. What will happen? All your attention will be on your back. You will not be able to concentrate on what is being said. So that means you need a healthy body. And you also need, as we saw, part of eligibility. What? A healthy mind. So not only it is something that awareness pervades and you can't totally get rid of it, but actually it is useful. Useful in the inquiry. It's an instrument through which the whole inquiry takes place. This is where Atma is available. Upalabdhi sthanam of Atma is in your buddhi. As Swamiji was saying, self-evident I. It's self-revealing. That's why he said Vedanta is not a pramana to reveal that you are. You already know you are. Vedanta is a pramana for you to know your true nature. Because that self-revealing I gets mixed up with what? The body and mind. That's how you become limited. Okay? So this is why you need this healthy body and you need healthy mind in order to solve this puzzle. And therefore, you need to, as we said, all the preparation of the mind are, as we have talked about in the Bhagavad Gita and everything. So that means ultimately using this body and mind, when can you say that you have now kind of solve the puzzle and move to your true nature, which is awareness? What is that connecting link? Vritti Jnana. If you remember what I said, what? Every knowledge takes place in the mind only through Vritti. Vritti means listening to Shastra with a prepared mind and hopefully a healthy body will create a Vritti. Through this Vritti, you will understand exactly what Shastra is saying without adding or subtracting your own things into it. And that body, this mind, will take you to awareness. Mind understands everything, retaining is knower. I am the knower and I know something. This is the only knowledge where the status of knower also goes away. Because the knower knows its true nature as awareness and the status of knower being Mithya. That's why it's a unique knowledge. Every knowledge retains the knower. And what we try to do is, retaining our knower, we try to know Brahman. Impossible. This is why our mind takes us for a ride. Keeps creating images of realities which are not accurate. Because we have never seen, because that's one entity which is always there, which is the knower. Knower of something. So whatever something else, whenever something else is known, knower remains intact. But knower is a limited entity. So that means through knowledge, the knower itself, what? Kind of disappears. When you know its mithyatvam. Doesn't disappear really, but its mithyatvam is known, its relativity is known. So this is what we call vritti gnana. So this is what,
Just
when
one
the
thing,
vritti,
even when I'm knowing something, then there is a distance between me and the knowing.
Exactly.
So then that is indirect. And therefore,
no.
and
No,
therefore
no,
this
no.
is direct.
No. Direct and indirect is a totally different thing. No. Don't mix it up with that. No. So that means, suppose I know this bottle, it's a direct knowledge for me. But the knower doesn't become the bottle. Do you understand? It's still a direct knowledge. But the knower is retained, and the object of knowledge is also retained.
So it's not just the distance.
It's not only the distance. Yeah. So this is where the knower disappears. Why does the knower disappear? Because Atma is the truth of the knower. And knower is a relative entity. This is why the mind cannot reach that. Because everything else that I have known so far retains my knower. This is why you need grace of Ishvara. Because you retaining your knowership, you try to understand, okay, what is Brahman, what is this, but that way, initially you have to do it. Why? Because you can't do anything otherwise. You can't give up your knowerness like that, right? But ultimately the knowledge, when you say, has taken place, the knower, requires Ishvara's grace. Knower knows one's mithyatva. I'm only a relative entity, I'm not a absolute entity. Awareness is the truth of the knower, without which knower cannot exist. But the knower, what? Depends upon Atma. Atma is independent of being the knower. And Atma is a much bigger entity than the knower. So this particular idea is explained in the next verse. ज्ञातृ ज्ञान ज्ञेय भेदः परे न आत्मनि विद्यते चिदानन्दैक रूपत्वात् विद्यते स्वयं एव हि. Who wants to read? Sunana.
The distinction between knower, knowledge, and the known do not exist in the self. Since its nature is homogeneous, limitless consciousness, it verily shines by itself.
Okay, excellent. So now, everything else, this idea is further elaborated. So that means now who is considered, now what? The result of the knowledge means the knower knows all of this. Otherwise, it's not called knowledge. So what is this? Every other knowledge, as I said, whether it is direct or indirect, don't confuse it with that. Retains the status of knower. What does it mean? The knower knows a given thing. What? It can be a tree, it can be a black hole, it can be galaxy, it can be genetics. So that means the knower, it can be the most sophisticated to something as simple as some simple perceptions, sun, anything. Or even your Sakshi Pratyaksha, my own emotion which comes up, happiness. So that means there is a knower who knows all of this in every other knowing. In this knowing, what this verse says is, awareness is known to be the truth of what Jnata, the knower. Jnanam, the means of knowledge. And Neema, the object of knowledge. Okay? Jnata, Jnanam and Neema. The awareness is truth of not just, otherwise what happens? We keep concentrating on the knower and try to go deep inside, but awareness is truth of all three. What does it mean? What you need to understand is, there is a knower. How do you get this knower? Through a vritti jnana. So as I explained yesterday, the vritti, suppose there is a pot, there are two corresponding vrittis. What? This is a pot and I know the pot. Right? So this is what we call jnata. Jnata is the knower who knows something else. Right? Now, what the knower knows keeps changing. What we are talking about is not this knower, but the content of this knower, which is awareness. Okay? So that means this is the truth of the knower. It is not retaining this position. What about means of knowledge? So that means in order for the knower to say this is a pot, the knower required this vritti. What? The external pot took the form of, took a thought form in form of pot. Yes? So that means this pot vritti, you understand? When this pot, the thought takes place in your mind, that is what we call means of knowledge. This is when the knower says, I know the pot. Right? So this vritti, which connects you to the external pot, right? Itself, this is I know. This is what? This is pot. You understand? Even that, this is pot, it has a pot form, but the content is awareness. Then the object of knowledge. In this case, pot. We do yet another operation. What is the yet another operation? Pot is nothing but clay, atoms, particles, concept and awareness. So that means when we are talking about awareness as the truth of yourself, please don't only confine to the knower. It is the truth of the knower, jnata. It is the truth of jnanam. It is the truth of object of knowledge, and it is also the truth of means of knowledge. Right? Both the knower, which is a vritti of the mind, I am the knower. Then of what? Pot. So how is pot known? Through yet another vritti in my mind. My thought takes a pot form. That also, that vritti, that thought which contains pot in it, itself has awareness as its content. And the object of knowledge, whatever it may be, when you actually look into it, it also what? Resolves in awareness. So when we are talking about awareness, please don't think most of the people, what they do is, they only work here. This is awareness, and they're obsessed with this. Actually, it is truth of everything. So that means there is a difference between Upalabdhi Sthana. So as I told you, this space seems to be confined to bottle, but ultimately it has to understand it is everywhere. Right? The space has to release itself from location. Same thing. Jnata is a place where awareness is available, but you can't be limiting it to that because it will become highly limited. You have to free it. How will you free it? You make it truth of everything. The knowledge, the means of the knower, the means of knowledge, and the object of knowledge. Yes.
There is an imagery where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was supposed to have dissolved into, supposed to have been dissolved. Is that the imagery which has been used, that the
No.
lower knowledge and
See, one thing is very important. When everything resolves into knowledge, we are not talking literally. It doesn't mean that the form disappears.
no, that's the imagery which is
That is the imagery. So
preached.
I don't know which imagery they use and what they mean by that. So I'm not able to comment on somebody else's imagery. What I can say is when we use pramana and we understand it, then what happens? Gnata remains, the knower remains. The object of knowledge also remains. The thought which produces that knowledge also remains. The only thing is they are three understood as mithya. That content is understood as awareness. So the physical thing, nothing changes, nothing disappears. Its truth is known. So that is the difference. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen if the knower disappears? There is no teacher anymore. Right? The teacher the form disappears. Then what? There is nobody to talk. So that knower still remains, but it is understood to be mithya. The absolute reality of that knower goes away. Yeah. This is why I said you don't need to break the pot in order to understand it is clay. Yeah. एवं आत्मा अर्णव ध्यान मथने सततम कृते उदित अवदति ज्वाला सर्व अज्ञान इंधनम दहे. Who wants to read it? Yes, English.
Thus, in the agony of mind, contemplation is done constantly like the churning of early wood, until the fire of knowledge arises and burns all the fuel of ignorance, all karmas.
Excellent. So that means until your mind reaches this reality, you are still an individual, right? And you still have physical body, subtle body, and all the karmas are all intact in your account, right? So many people use Vedanta to kind of say, oh, now I'm not affected. But if you have not understood, all your karmas are all in the account and they will fructify. So your imagination of I am awareness is not going to do anything. You can't fool Ishvara. Right? You can't float with idea of awareness being a non-doer, because until you have understood it, each karma of yours you are liable for. You had a question?
Just this that moksha would happen only when this account is settled.
Excellent. So what we call moksha, exactly. So suppose that vritti does take place. What is that akhandakara vritti? As a result of contemplation, as a result of shravanam, removing doubts and all that. When that vritti takes place, what does that vritti do? Till the vritti takes place, everything that you are only trying to understand through your mind, because that's the entity that you are working with, right? That vritti, what will it do? It will make you see relativity of your mind and make you see clearly the nature of awareness. Then, from then onward, it's not a mind construct. It is something that this is why we call it direct knowledge. Means there is no distance, as he was saying, between the Satchidananda and you anymore. This is who you are. You are that, right? It's not that you understand that, you are that. When that happens, there is a quantum shift in your identity. So that means now your awareness. So what happens to this individual who has a huge account? What account? Account of all the adrishta phala, sanchita karma, all the unseen result from multiple past lives They're all there. And they will either fructify in this life or in the future life. The minute you have shifted here really, not for lip service, what will happen? You are no longer a karta. Because why you are no longer a karta? This karta still remains, like no one remains. Right? But it is understood to be mithya, and your identity is this awareness. Here, there is no action. This is actionless. And this is why you know something actionlessness doesn't make you actionless. You know the only way awareness can be known is it is me. There is no other way awareness can be known because that's you. So that means if this is who you are, there is no action. And if there is no action, there is no person who owns up these actions. This is why this account is closed immediately. Gone. At that point in time, what happens? All the karmas are destroyed in one shot. If you have to physically exhaust these karmas, when will you exhaust these karmas? It's impossible. Why? Because there is no beginning of creation, there is cycle of creation. So how many karmas you have? Infinite. As you exhaust some karmas, right, a few in your prarabdha karma, you also accumulate new. So that means there is no way to physically exhaust these karmas. So many people say, oh, then I'll withdraw from the world. So that is the way to reduce karma. Withdrawing from the world makes you lazy. So when you don't do something that you have to do and you are still a doer, you haven't yet moved here, what will it do? It will give you papa. Papa means not doing what needs to be done, means you are not doing your dharmas well, swadharma well, you are not playing your roles well. So that means that will accumulate. So less action doesn't mean you are getting closer to knowledge. This is why, do you remember the verse which said that karma is not virodha to knowledge, to avidya. Karma will, whether you do karma or you don't do karma, as long as you are a karta, you are within adhyasa. And it will keep you in this karma loop. So if you, that is why you have to connect the whole text. What is said here is now proven here. What happens by the time we know this, we forget that. So that is how it all seems all scattered. It's not scattered, it's extremely well written book. It's Adi Shankaracharya. So therefore, what the karma...
Can you use a darker pen, please?
Pen is a problem. My handwriting is a problem. Everything is a problem.
That's okay, we'll just darker pen.
Okay. So that means the unseen results which are accumulated from multiple lifetimes over cycles of creation, which are in my account, at one point get nullified when my identity moves from this karta or jnata to my true nature. Here there is no action and therefore the account holder is no more. The account holder is no more. What happens? All diffused. This is till then this continues. Even when you are studying Vedanta, this continues, and this is why we need prayers. We need prayers because your punya and papa are every day manifesting in form of whatever, your mental afflictions, physical afflictions, distractions, all of this, non-understanding, and they keep coming up. So this is why you have Dakshinamurti. Look at this Dakshinamurti. What is down below?
Yeah, Devan.
Apasmara. Apasmara means it represents all the difficulties that you can have in your pursuit of knowledge. Right? Now, this apasmara, what is Lord Shiva doing to this apasmara? Is he killed?
No.
No. Because it's your karma account. Nobody can nullify it. Right? Nobody can negate it while you are still an individual. Nobody can nullify it. What does the grace of Ishvara do? It puts it under check. He's just touching it. It's still there, but it is not what intervening so much in your process of knowing. This is why you need prayerfulness. This is what? All this unseen results which are in form of your prarabdha. Some of them have already started fructifying. So you do have punya and papa here. And all these papas can interfere during our 3.5-year course. It is interesting. Everybody, almost everybody, all women, I don't know about men, almost everybody, somebody fell down and had injury, somebody he had the shoulder something, almost everybody through this 3.5 period, everybody had something or the other. Now, all these papas that we have, they have to manifest somehow.
The roads are not level, it's in the forest.
Then there are snakes, then there are elephants. Yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. So whether there is an environment or you fall or whatever, what happens, all these papas can keep surfacing. Some people had very hard time emotionally. Why did they have very hard time emotionally? Because they have suppressed all the emotions up to now, and now there is no escape. From morning, people are complaining, oh, this is a very heavy schedule. We have done this for 3.5 years. All the classes, plus Vedic chanting, plus Sanskrit, plus Panini grammar, and not one day break.
Plus homework.
Plus homework.
With no Gayatri Neema.
No Gayatri.
My God,
So that means you can imagine they're saying, oh, now 10 days is seeming so much. Now imagine 3.5 years. That means so much punya, listening to Shastra, reflecting on the truth and all of that. What happens to all these papa? They will surface. They cannot but surface. You need prayers to keep it under check. Please help me to finish this pursuit.
So the example has been given which says the fire of knowledge arises and burns all the fuel of ignorance.
Yes,
it is not about the account getting exhausted, but the account getting extinguished in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
That
So
kind of,
totally extinguished. Fire of knowledge totally burns all the karma. The only karma which remains, this is what we are talking about, is Sanchita karma. The entire account is closed. No more birth. This is why we call it moksha, no more birth. Because there is no karma now remaining for an individual to take birth. But the prarabdha karma, the karma which has already started, they remain. How do they? I will take your question. I'll finish this. Okay. Why do they remain? So there is one imagery. Something which is already released is already in motion. You can't stop it. For example, if there is a person who releases the arrow, right? He's released the arrow. Now suppose now this person got a cardiac arrest and he died. What will happen to the arrow?
It will continue.
It will still continue. Why will it continue? It's already released. Now it will go according to the laws. The doer has done its job. Now the laws will decide when and how it will fall. Right? Same thing with reference to our prarabdha karma. This set of karma have already given birth to this body and mind. So this karma which I have already set in motion, they will not go away when knowledge takes place for several reasons. Suppose I tell you, the minute you come to know, you will die. Who will want to know this knowledge? Will say, no, I want to know tomorrow, not today. Right? So this is what it is. So that means, he was talking about how much we all have innate love for living. Nobody wants to die, right? So this is why, this is one thing. The knowledge will become highly unattractive the minute you know it. Now, the advantage of this is, all our lives, through cycles of creation, we have lived as small individuals. And along with that is a lot of affliction. So now we are given some time to enjoy living with a completely different vision of reality. It's a gift from Ishvara. You've done hard work, you've qualified yourself, you have listened to Shastra, you have reflected on it properly, and you have gained my blessing to gain this knowledge. Now enjoy this, this fruit of this knowledge. Live in this world with freedom, walking around with freedom, with just irresponsible freedom. What? Freedom which comes from knowledge. So this is your some gift years where you can enjoy this totally different paradigm. The third, suppose the minute the person died, who will be the teacher? The minute the person knew, the person died. Who will be the teacher? Only people who don't know. If only the people who are alive who don't know, who is a guru? Guru is an ignorant guru. How will ignorant guru remove the ignorance of somebody else? Will make ignorance square rather than right. So this is why you need a wise person who has removed the ignorance to now carry on the teaching tradition. This is why Guru is so revered. Why? Because the Guru becomes what? Ishvara's vehicle through which the knowledge is passed on. Because that individual, that real individual is gone, understood as mithya, and the person knows I am Brahman. This is something which the person knows clearly. And this is why when the person knows, the person's words carry special weight. It's not like something that you theoretically know that you are talking about. This is you and you are talking about it. And you are endowed with methodology. Because how did you get it? You got it from your teacher. And who is the teacher who not only knows the Shastra but also is equipped with methodology to what? Convey this knowledge in totality to you. So this is why that person is a teacher who's not just a teacher who's speaking from his mind, is what? Wielding Shastra, the pramana, and passing it on. So this is a big service that the person does to lift everybody else up. So not only you enjoy yourself while for a few years that you are given within your prarabdha karma, but also you, in those years, you pass on the tradition. There is no rule that everybody has to become a teacher, but many do, because just as you have been so blessed with this teaching, and you know how much it has changed you and what it did for you. Nobody else may see it, but you see it very clearly. And then you pass it on.
You already answered the question.
Quick.
I'm just wondering what is happening in the moment when you understand the truth fully, what is happening to agami karma, the karma you produced already in this life.
What? Okay, agami karma. Agami karma also, well, they equally go away because agami karma actually go back to sanchita karma at the end of the life. some people say in Atma Bodha, it is said slightly differently. This is something now you don't know, right? In Atma Bodha, the way it is expressed is that Agami karma is still there, and what happens, the wise persons, Agami, which are punya, which are good actions, because till the person became wise, the person had an account, right? Whatever, however you have lived in this life, and nobody has only punya. Everybody has punya and papa, right? So, the people who learn from the wise person, people who praise, all these punyas go to those people. And people who criticize the wise person, then what happens? The papa goes to that person. So this is what it said. Now we don't know. Because karma by definition, Adrishta, you know that this account is either totally exhausted or it is the agami karma is distributed. There are two opinions. Okay. The point is, wise person is no longer affected by that.
You got the imagery now.
The fire burns.
You know how you create fire from two pieces of wood?
Yeah, exactly. So that is vritti. Go. Can you explain?
So you have a base. Please go and try to do that. You need special wood. You need the special first basis, and you need the thinner thing that you do like this. And the friction it produces heat. And at some point, if it's the right wood, the right friction, amount of friction, it will produce spark. Let's try one day. So here, what is the upper wood?
Arani.
Contemplation. And in fact, all the process of knowing means shravanam, mananam, nididhyasana. Listening, exposing yourself to the shastra, clearing your doubts, and contemplating upon them repeatedly. And what is the receptacle, the basis? Mind.
Mind blowing.
Mind blowing. Okay. Arunena eva bodhena purvam santamase krute tata avi bhavet atma swayam eva amshuman iva. Okay, who wants to read? Yes.
As by the light of early dawn appears, as it destroys the dense darkness existing before dawn, so too it is by knowledge that the self shines by itself, just like the sun.
So that means when this is what that okay, this is a beautiful imagery, because before the sun actually comes into being, already there is some light in the sky, right? Then what happens, like all of us who go for Ganga dip, we see that at one point, right, otherwise the sky is slightly orange, but at one point the sun has come and everybody's wow, right? So this is what we say, but before that sun shines, there is already some dawn, there is some light. So this is exactly, it's not like from total darkness to vritti gnanam. So that means what? Before that there is a dawn. What does that stand for? Already there is a clarity in you. Already there is a reflection. Already you have listened to Shastra enough. You have thought about it, contemplated on it enough. Already you have taken many measures to change your orientations, you improve you as an individual. So that means there is a light. But that is not like all of a sudden, whole of sun will be there. So that means that till the time that the knowledge takes place, you only can what? Engage in Shastra and prepare yourself for it. When that sun will shine for you, who knows? Nobody knows. But it can happen anytime. Right? So this is what, that when the whole sun is shining, that means there is not an ounce of ignorance. That is, it's not partial removal of ignorance. Till then, some parts are becoming clear, these parts are becoming clear, these parts are becoming clear, connections are becoming more clear. Each part is not just seen as some independent thing floating in the air and you're trying to hold all the information. It's becoming part of the whole picture of reality. Growing reality. So solving the jigsaw puzzle. Right? And then finally, the whole picture is absolutely clear. That is sun shining, then you don't have to do anything. This is now, the work of buddhi is Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. But Atma is doing Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam? No, Atma is no action. Then what? The vritti will take you to your true nature. It will appear. Appear means not that it will appear. That when ignorance is gone, this you will own up it as your true nature. Next, Atma tu satatam praptaha api apraptavat avidheya tannashe praptavat bhati swakantha abharanam yatha. Nice example. Who wants to read? Shakti.
Although the self is available all the time, yet because of ignorance, it seems that it is not attained. When ignorance is dispelled, the self is as though gained, just as the ornament which was all the time around one's neck.
Okay. So our teacher used to give similar example. And he used to make everyone laugh. I don't have the ability to make people laugh. I will tell the example anyway, right? So he was almost like an actor, he was so funny. So he would give an example of glasses, right? So he would say that suppose you are reading newspaper on Sunday and then you're using your glasses, then some neighbor came. Right, and came in to chat with you, and what did you do with your glasses? You put it up there. Then the neighbor went, after chatting, having some chai and all, the neighbor went. Now you want to restart reading the newspaper and you're looking for your glasses. And you're looking here, and you're looking there, and you're looking there, and you can't find it anywhere. Then what happens? You call your spouse. Hey, have you seen my glasses? And then he or she comes and he sees exactly where the glasses are. Ask for a bribe. What if I give you this glass? What will I get? So then you are desperate, then you said, okay, I can take you out for dinner. And then he or she says, let's say she says, oh, what? The glass is here. What does it mean? It's always with you. She did not produce the glass. It was never away from you. But what kept you away from this glass? Ignorance. The only thing which kept you away from this glass, the pair of glasses, is ignorance. So that means when somebody points it out, what did you do to gain the glass? It was already there. So this is why through your thinking processes, we are not trying to produce Atma. Production, if you're trying to produce Atma, it will always be limited. Why? Because your efforts are limited, then the outcome is going to be limited. Either Atma is the whole or it is not the whole. If it is not the whole, I have to learn to live with it. I can't do anything about it. And if it is the whole, and if I live as though I'm small, who can I blame? Me and my ignorance. There is nothing else to blame. So therefore, what we are doing is not producing anything. What we are doing is removing ignorance. Okay. So, and if Atma is always there. So that means some people ask, even for a criminal, Atma is always there, that limitless Ananda Atma is all, even for criminals, murderers. Yeah?
Yes.
Who said yes? Very good. Okay. Now, so people ask, oh, if Atma is everywhere and Ishvara is everywhere, why is it that somebody is a criminal? Very common question. If you want to be Vedanta teacher, be ready for these. Commonest question. So, now answer that question.
That person is basically responding in action to a bunch of past karma which has caused him to or her to behave in a way, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he is part of the whole.
So that means what is happening, we have to understand. Any criminal, before the person commits the crime, has what? A master, that plans the crime, right? Nobody just kind of, this is why the police are very clever. They will take the clues and they'll find who the person is if they are, So what happens, the whole event which is yet to manifest, where is it planned?
Mind.
In the mind. It's already there in the mind. How did the mind think? How did it create this amazing plan? The more sophisticated the theft is, the more sophisticated the plan is, right? So where did it do? In the mind, some whole big plan came, and that required neurons. It required electrical connections. And it required some chemicals. And when they all came together, there came this plan. So what is this plan? Is use of the brain, which that person has used. Is this person now commits a crime, now acts, so he acts. First it was in the mind, now he acts, now he becomes a criminal. So till here, it is what we call jiva, the person, right? Whose thought processes are like this, which is leading him to this action, and this is what this person is doing. Okay? But from here starts Ishvara. Neurons which allow you to think, electrical connections which make the thinking possible, chemicals which make the whole brain work as it is. Are they criminal? Are they criminal? No. Not at all. But they come, and so that means they come together for so many different human beings, but they don't become criminal. So that means here you are using your purushartha. How you are going to use this faculty that is given to you is entirely up to you. So it is your responsibility. This is Ishvara's creation. It gives you a possibility. So this is why Swamiji used to say that suppose you say pain brings you to Vedanta. Not always. There are so many people who have pain. They can become criminals. They can become whatever, right? So pain doesn't bring you to Vedanta. Grace brings you to Vedanta. Some grace. And your own effort, your purushartha. What am I looking for in life, and what will give me, what can give me what I am looking for. Grace and purushartha go hand in hand. So that means brain is full of possibilities. This is a possibility. So you can't say, you can't hold Ishvara responsible for that person's use of brain. Do you understand? So you can't ask the question, if Ishvara is everywhere, why somebody is a criminal? Ishvara is in form of possibilities. Possibilities, you can collapse the possibilities and become a genius, You can collapse those possibilities and become a criminal. You can collapse those possibilities and become a jnani. You can collapse the possibilities in any way. This is what we call purushartha. So therefore, from here you can't say that what this is what. This is what? And this is not an imperfect design. It is here the possibility that the person has what collapsed with the distortion of the mind, and then it has consequences. Seen and unseen consequences. So, this verse, what is it saying? That so Atma, even for a criminal, Atma is already there, intact. It is not contaminated. What is contaminated is, if this is not contaminated, what to talk of all knowledge and all power, which makes this possible. And the truth of that, which is awareness. Do you understand? You have to understand the place where it is happening. All this is free from it.
Valmiki.
Yeah, quickly.
Valmiki, the story.
Yeah, Valmiki story, right? Valmiki story is an amazing story. Valmiki was a thief, and he used to go and loot everybody who was passing in the forest. So one day Narada was passing the forest, and he wanted to take away Narada's, all the belongings. Narada asked him, he says, why do you do this? He says, well, I have to earn money to support my family, and this is the easiest way that I can do it. I come to the forest, I live here, just nearby. I come to the forest, whoever is passing by, I'm just, taking away his thing. And he says, you know what, there are other people in your village? Yes. What do? Do they all loot? They said, no, somebody does farming, somebody is a vendor, somebody is doing. So it's you who have chosen to do this. He says, yes. Why? It's the easiest. I don't have to make so much effort, sowing seed, watering every day. It's the easiest, fastest way to get it. He says, okay, it may seem like a fastest way for you, but there will be consequences. Oh, there are consequences? Okay. Then he says, doesn't matter. Why? Because I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it to bring food to my family, to educate my kids. I'm doing it for them. I'm not doing it for myself. But Narada says, okay, you think you're not doing it for yourself and doing it for your family. You go home and you ask your family and you tell them that I'm looting people in order to support you. Now, Narada Muni tells me that there will be consequences. So I'm doing it all for you. Will you share the consequences? So, Narada, Valmiki goes. That time his name was not Valmiki. His name was Ratnakara. What? Ratnakara. Yeah. Then he goes home and he asks his wife. He says, you know what, I met this Narada and I'm looting, and he says there will be consequences. But I'm doing it for you. Will you share the consequences? The wife said, no way. I'm looking after the house. We've decided to divide. It's not natural division. We've decided to divide. You earn and I will look after the home. You have to make sure that you earn the money through right means. So if you choose to do it the easy way, you have to face the consequences, not me. Ratnakar is very disappointed. He thought, I'm doing it for my wife. She doesn't want any responsibility for it. He says, okay, wives are like that. Let me ask my kids. At least they will partake. He asks his kids. kids also say, no, why should we? Your job is to support us. We are only studying and we are only doing things. Why should we take the consequences for the means that you have chosen? That means that was a big thing. Up to now, he was justifying. I'm doing it for this, I'm doing it for that. And then he goes back to Narada and he says, my God, now what do I do? My whole life I have lived like that. Just, justification of something which is inappropriate. What do I do? So Valmiki says, Narada says, don't worry, it's never too late. You sit here and you do a japa. What japa? Mara, 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 mara. What does it become? Rama, Rama, Rama. Valmiki sits there. He gets totally absorbed. He gets so absorbed. He loses sense of day and night or whatever. And then what? Narada has gone and he's coming back. When he comes back through that forest, he sees an anthill. And from there comes this japa. Rama, 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 Rama. And he breaks open the anthill. And what comes from Ratnakar to possibilities. These possibilities are there for everyone. Please don't ask questions. People are unprivileged. What is this category that we create? Who is privileged and who is not privileged? You see everybody's life. It has its own fair share of difficulties, challenges, and its fair share of joys. This is the truth of everyone. I live by the beach. I see every day what we think the kids who are unprivileged, simple kids from some very simple homes, the way they play in the water and the way they are laughing. Nobody laughs like that. Laughter. Listen, we have to sit here and do all these things. They laugh, they are totally, they are totally free. I don't mean to over-romanticize that. I don't mean to say that they are all very happy. But what I'm saying is that please don't create world into these two categories. This is your perception of things. Every people who come to me, they are so-called highly privileged. They all come and when they tell me their stories, I'm like, and they are all struggling. Everybody is struggling at some point or the other. So therefore, this arrogance of I'm privileged and all that, you don't need to. Just live with some wisdom, and if you can share that wisdom with somebody to make their life better, wonderful. Wonderful. That's what you're here for. So that means, yes.
And Neema, even the idea of criminal,
yes.
I think a lot of Indian businessmen genuinely believe that you're not a criminal until you get caught.
Why businessmen also? Everybody believes that.
No, I mean white collar crime.
I believe other crimes also.
Yeah. So that means the thing is, this is why I think we all have to think that doing the right thing is what I think the point she's trying to make is just within legal this thing.
See, everybody is not prosecutable, but in your heart
Yes.
you know you're a criminal.
Exactly. So what we need to remember is that yes, there is a legal system and that is a valid system, right? It actually represents Ishvara's law. That there are consequences for the actions that you actually, it's not against, it is actually a representation of Ishvara's law. But you can escape legal system, but you can't escape Ishvara's laws. If we remember that, then you don't try to outsmart Ishvara. You learn to live with Ishvara's laws. So this is what he says, that this person is for everyone, Atma is limitless and everybody can know it. this is one thing that in our course, right? So people, I give classes in South Bombay and everybody is all very privileged and they said, oh, we are so lucky this knowledge is available to us because we are all very comfortable and we've achieved so much in life and all that. I said, when I studied with Swamiji in Anekatti, how many South Bombay people were there? Zero. There were people from Orissa, people small villages. They somehow became eligible for knowing. And they got a great master like Swamiji. Bihar. What education? Simple. Some of them are very clever, very smart. But some of them are just simple human beings. But some of them were so smart, so brilliant. Some of them I'm like, oh my God, where did they get this brilliance from? They're just simple from some Orissa university, hardly even speaking whatever, they mostly speak Oriya, struggle with English, but their brilliance was just incredible. And one of them, it is something, everybody becomes eligible for this knowledge through totally different means. One of them, we discovered that he had helped in Rishikesh, near Lakshman Jhula, there are some lepers. He had gone for 1 year and he had served them. Who can do it? So that means don't look at Ishvara's laws through your narrow vision of things. Gahana karmano gati. Ishvara's laws are just unfathomable. Unfathomable. So many people I met in the US, all Ivy League schools, Silicon Valley, all from simple families. Not some big families or anything. Simple families but clean values, brilliance, chanting Gayatri Mantra every day. So that means this is your vision. Don't divide the world. Poor them. Hey, you first take care of yourself. And if you can help others, please do it. But do it out of certain humbleness. You have to do what you have to do. They are inferior, not true. So, this is what this Atma is everywhere, and Ishvara as possibilities also everywhere. The minute you recognize that, you understand that, right? That is equally there for everyone. And this mind is malleable. It can change anytime. So you have to take the initiative and you have to be there. Okay. So, that is 44, right? It's already there. And, yeah, now 45. Sthanau Purushavat Grantha Kruta Brahmani Jivata Jivasya Tatvike Rupe Tasmin Drishte Nivartate. Okay, who wants to read it? Yes, no.
Due to delusion, just as the trunk of a tree is taken for a thief, so also Brahman is taken to be an individual, Jiva. When the real nature of the Jiva is seen, the ignorance is removed.
Okay, very good. So that means now let's use, see, everything is to refine your knowledge further. It may seem as though, again, I've already seen this, but with every verse there is some further refinement in our understanding. Who is Jiva? As we saw, due to ignorance, you take yourself to be the physical, subtle, and causal body. When did this ignorance start? It is anadi. It is beginningless. Why is it anadi? Because it is connected to Ishvara's Maya Shakti. Which kind of Maya Shakti it is connected to? Avarana. Avarana means that Ishvara, from the potential when it manifests as universe, not only it manifests the universe, but it covers or veils the truth of the universe from you. So therefore you don't recognize that all that is here is Ishvara and Ishvara's truth, which is Brahman. So it belongs to Ishvara, survives creation. So that means Ishvara precedes the creation, being the cause. So therefore you can't say ignorance has a beginning, because beginning is in time and time is in creation. Right? So this is why we call it is anadi. Anadi. So now, with the help of the Shastra, what are you doing? This Jiva is constantly told, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, you are not this, you are not this, you are what? You are not this, you are not this, you are not this. Then who are you? You are Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Now, I'm going to ask a question. Whoever answers this right will get a treat from me tonight. Because this is a tricky question. What happens to Jiva? What? When this knowledge takes place, what happens to Jiva?
It carries on living.
Sorry?
It carries on living.
Okay. So now, okay, that's a good question. I mean, that is, I'll treat you half. Okay, it's good enough. Good. Good. Anybody else?
He carries on living consciously.
Okay, that of course. That is, no. What happens is, please don't answer me. What I did not want to hear was, Jiva goes away. Why? Because wherever there is Jiva, there is truth. So what goes away is not Jiva. What gives away is Jivatvam. The status of this, all of this.
What did you say, Jivatvam?
Jivatvam means status of being a Jiva. Jiva's Swarupa is what? Satyam Jnanam Ananda. Don't forget the fact, wherever there is Mithya, that's exactly where there is Satyam. One part is Mithya, the other one is Satyam. Wherever there is Vritti, which is Mithya, that's exactly where there is awareness. Vritti is what comes and goes. Awareness is always present. Right?
Neema,
So
could
that
we have
means-
said avidya goes away?
Sorry?
Where you're saying jivatam?
Jivatvam avidya.
Could we have said avidya
Okay,
goes
excellent. That means avidya goes away. Jivatvam, what does it mean? That's a good question. Because ignorance goes away, your identification with this goes away. This is called Jivatvam. But what remains is Swarupa of Jiva, which is Sat Atma. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Because there is no entity in this universe without the presence of Atma. This is why Atma is limitless. Nothing can go away. If something has to go away for Atma to emerge, Atma becomes limited. There is a Jivatvam, which is Mithya. There is a Swarupa of Jiva, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So that means when the ignorance goes away and the identification with this goes away, the adhisthana, the real adhisthana is what you own up to. You remember Drik, Drishya, Viveka, the first few verses in this, in Atma Bodha. What? This is the final adhishthanam of everything.
Isn't there a new technical term for the jiva after getting the knowledge? Because we define ignorance plus.
So that means, yes, exactly. So that means, but wherever, as I tell you, wherever there is this, there is its truth. So this is why. So this is why I think even Rajashik came once and he said, individual becomes Satyam Jnanam Ananta Brahma. So what you have to see is, wherever there is individual, one part is mithya. What is mithya? The body mind, right? But the truth of that is awareness. So do you understand? So what goes away is wrong attributions, right? And the karma. But the swarupa of jiva is what? Brahman. Why? Because if that means what has happened, the manifestation right now as one individual remains, but that is known very clearly as mithya, and what is the final truth is abiding in the mind of the person. So that means swarupa of anything that exists in this creation is Satyam Jnanam. So you cannot eliminate anything in this world because that has its truth as Satyam Jnanam. So now the person is no longer living with ignorance. That is what is.
Can we also say, like you had explained about the blue cloth, so the blueness, you know that it's not,
Excellent.
the blueness goes away, is it?
Yes. So that means blueness has actually never touched the crystal. That knowledge is. Crystal was always clear. It's not like, even if the appearance of blue is still there, you don't mistake it to be attribute of crystal. You understand it belongs to the cloth.
So would it be fair to say when knowledge is attained, there is only awareness?
Exactly. For you. At the same time, the body may continue. It's not like for you, all that is here is one awareness. There is no second thing as such. Everything else is empirically, even if it is true, it is mithya.
And the body continues like you explained, that
body
prakarana,
continues. Yes,
that part.
exactly.
But what remains is not it gets transformed, but what remains is only awareness.
No, exactly. So let me explain this idea a little bit better. Somebody else?
Yeah, just maybe you can help me out, because when we talk about the knower, you already said the knower disappears.
No, did I say?
Yes.
The knower has two parts. What? One is the,
You use the word. So
and the other one is the content. Mithya means you can't separate it from Satyam. Why? Because everywhere there is Mithya, that's exactly where you have to figure out the Satyam. Because Satyam is there. What is our problem is, Mithya seems real and Satyam is missed out. What does Pramana do? Makes you see form as a mithya and makes you see the content as Satyam, which is never changing and which is in your buddhi as self-shining awareness, which is not only located in your buddhi, it's everywhere. Okay, so now, next verse. I will do.
Just one thing to reply, I will try. When we say in the previous verses, destroys, remove, dissolve, and so on, it's not dissolving the jiva, it's dissolving the ignorance which made this form take itself to be only a limited illusion. So what is removed is the ignorance.
And in fact, so to put it differently, all that is here is one thing. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. There is no second thing. So that means you can't really destroy anything. Right? Because if you destroy something, you are destroying something which is undestructible. So what you are doing is destroying your ignorance, which makes you see many. Because in reality there is one unchanging reality which is not subject to any discussion.
And in fact, you continue to see many, but in spite of seeing many, you see one.
You see one which is a non-change.
It's not that everything becomes a blob of consciousness.
Okay, now, next 46. Tattva Swarupa Anubhava Utpannam Jnanam Anjasa Aham Mama Iti Cha Ajnanam Adhate Dik Brahmadivata. Okay, who wants to read it? Yeah, please.
As a result of the knowledge of the truth, the knowledge which is born instantly destroys the error of I and mine, just as confusion regarding direction is destroyed immediately and directly by right information.
Okay. Now, so this is, the Vritti Jnanam will do its job, and what you come to know is your Swarupa as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, and the ignorance which makes you what? Connected to physical, subtle and causal body. Okay? There is one thing that I want you all to understand, which is little bit pertaining to Jayanta's question. There are, when you remove adhyasa and the knowledge takes place, there are two scenarios. One is what we call nirupadika adhyasa. And the second one is called sopadika adhyasa. Maybe. I'm not sure. So then, upadhi is long or short?
Short.
Yeah, no. Okay. So nirupadika adhyasa and sopadika adhyasa. What does it mean? Adhyasa we have seen is superimposition. Right? We have seen. And superimposition is due to avidya, ignorance.
Short.
Okay? So, it is due to ignorance. So, now what we are doing is this superimposition cannot really go until you remove the ignorance. Because the reason why you superimpose is because you don't know what it is. Right? This is true for everyone. Now, when you remove the ignorance, what happens to your perception? That is what is two different things. One is when you suppose your perception of the sun. What is your perception of the sun? It is rising in the eastern skies and it sets in the western skies. This is your perception. Now suppose you started thinking that the sun rises in the eastern sky and sun sets in the western sky, then it is an error. Why? Why is it an error? Because the sun is stationary. It is the earth which is moving around its own axis and it is moving around sun's axis. So suppose you remove this ignorance, what will happen to your experience of rising sun and setting sun?
Same.
It still remains exactly the same. What have you done? You have removed ignorance. But what has happened is you still experience rising and setting sun. It has not changed it. But then you need to reconcile. If the sun is stationary, why is it that I have this perception? You need to reconcile. This is called knowledge. Until then, it's just not knowledge. Why does it give this appearance? Then you have to give a reason. Why does it give this appearance? Because the earth is moving on its own axis and it is moving around the sun. So what part of the earth is exposed to the sun? That's where it seems to be rising. You understand? You have to complete it. Otherwise it's not called complete. Okay? So that means you have given the reason why is it not rising. At the same time, you are still perceiving rising and second sun. It does not change your perception. This is why it is called sopadikadhyasa. Even after the superimposition is removed and the ignorance is removed, the appearance still remains the same. But that appearance doesn't lead to wrong conclusions. You can enjoy. Not only you can enjoy, but you can write a poetry about the rising sun. As long as you are clear that the sun doesn't actually rise. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't create ignorance. The ignorance is removed once and for all. Okay? Whereas there is the other part, adhyasa, rope snake.
But you can take Purushasthana.
Yeah, Purushasthana. Let's take Purushasthana. What is sthano? Is a pillar.
A trunk of a tree.
A trunk of a tree.
With branches.
When a trunk of a tree is mistaken for a person, at night you are walking in the woods and you are a little bit careful and you see a trunk of a tree and then you think it's some Ratnakar who's hiding. Then what will happen? It will create some fear in you. Then what? If somebody, your friend is walking with you and the friend has a little sharper eye, what will they do? He or she will throw the light on this trunk of the tree. And what will happen? Now your ignorance goes, your adhyasa goes, because your ignorance goes, you see it as the other way.
No,
yeah, it is.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You see
So that means.
You see the thief.
Yeah, you see.
The thief disappears and you see what it was in
Exactly.
reality, which was
right,
the
trunk of a tree. Yeah. So that means now the person that you see disappears and you now see what? Trunk of the tree. So what has happened? Your ignorance is gone and your superimposition is gone and now your perception changes. What? Before you saw a person and now you see trunk of a tree. So that means there are two types of errors. One, when you remove the error and ignorance, the superimposition also goes away, and as a result of superimposition going away, your perception changes. Like rope and, like the trunk of a tree and a person. Perception changes. In the other case, your ignorance goes, your superimposition also goes, but the perception remains the same. Whether it is the rising sun or flat earth, all of this. Even after you know the fact that the earth is actually a globe, the perception of flat earth will remain. So that means, and then you have to reconcile. If the earth is globe, why do I see it as flat? Well, as far as the eyes can go, you can't see the curvature. So that means this is called reconciliation. You have to then say, oh, if this is there, then why is my perception not that? There is a reason for it. Okay? So this is what we call sopadika adhyasa and nirupadika adhyasa. Now, in which case, what applies? Is there any rule? Because now you then need to apply this rule for what? When your ignorance about the nature of Atma goes away, what is going to happen? Is your perception going to remain the same, or is your perception going to change? That is a key that you need to. So do you see any pattern between sopadika adhyasa and nirupadika adhyasa? When, in which case it would be nirupadik and which case it would be sopadika? I'll have to stop. Maybe I will do it. You have one day to think about it. So you have some topic to discuss in Gayatri.
You're coming along.
I'm coming along just to chit chat, not to give an answer.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.